back to Obsession Engineering for another episode of Henry's Honda SP1 Restoration. The bike's really coming together now, and there's only really a few little bits left to do before I can put fluids back in it and make it run. So we're going to start off by putting the second radiator back on. Now I've painted the fan cover and I need to put the oil cooler back on. So let's get cracking. So here we go. I've got my oil pipes, which a bit of Scotch-Brite actually took almost all the rust off them. So they were just a little bit pitted in a few places. So what I've actually done is just lacquered them. Given them a little bit of a rub down with Scotch-Brite to key them, bit of lacquer, they've come up really nicely. I've just repainted the metal bits of the ends black so that they look shiny. I've also painted the little bracket that holds the oil cooler on, and I've painted the back of the fan bracket that holds it to the radiator because it was looking a little bit rusty. So they all look spiffing. Must be time to actually bolt them to something. I also cleaned up the oil cooler yesterday. I had to sort of be fairly gentle and do it by hand, and obviously I can't do anything around the fins because they'll just get bent and break. But I've made it as good as I can. It's not perfect, but it is considerably better than when I took it off. So that's the oil cooler fitted with its cleaned up, painted and lacquered pipes. I've got the second radiator on. The oil cooler's tucked under there. Looks a little bit better than we took everything apart. And if we come round here, we've got some rather important things. I've got some excellent Motul fully synthetic oil to go in it, and a genuine Honda oil filter. I tend to go genuine on oil filters where I can, because then there's no question of quality, and there's definitely no question of quality on the oil. So that is going to go inside there, and then I suppose we'll have to turn it over a bit and get the oil around it. I always soak a little bit of oil into the filter first, give it a few minutes to soak into all the material, and it just means when you actually come to start the bike, or at least turn it over, it will be able to build its oil pressure a little bit quicker because the filter's already got oil in it. So just leaving that for a few minutes for the oil to soak into it, and then we'll pop it onto the bike and fill the rest of it up with oil. So I have a sight glass full of lovely Motul oil. I have, if we can get down there, a radiator full of blue antifreeze. I thought today the colour blue would work well. So the next thing to do is turn it on, see if we can get the oil light to go out. I'm purposely doing this with no fuel tank on so that we have absolutely no chance of the bike starting. This may take a while because it's got to get oil around absolutely everywhere. I'll do this in a couple of little bursts. There we go, oil light goes out. Give it a few seconds, it'll probably come back on again as the oil pressure drops. There we go, we'll do that again. Excellent, we now have oil all the way around the system, so I better check the level. The oil level's definitely dropped, so I know 100% that oil's been moving around the system. There is oil in it, so that'll do for now. We might top it up to the top level later, but it's easier to do that when it's off its paddock stand. The coolant is, well, if we can look at it, it's still in the filler neck, so that's a good sign that we've not got a system entirely full of air. So excellent. I think the next thing to do might actually be to put a fuel tank on it. So I've got the fuel tank refitted. The sort of connectors in the back of the tank are a little bit awkward to get to because you have to put the bolt in the back of the tank first. But the man at Honda, I don't think, anticipated people taking the fuel tank off particularly regularly. Unlike the man from Ducati who put quick release connectors on his tanks because he knew you'd have to take it apart more. There you go, and there's a design philosophy for you. So, when the rest of the bodywork went over to Aaron at Paint Cave, I did take the tank over as well because it was just getting a little bit sort of marked and the lacquer was just looking a little bit flat. So he's not done any paint on it, he's just given it a real good power polish and taken the old tank cover off because it was looking a bit shabby. So that, in this light, admittedly looks slightly pink, but in real life, with my eyes, looks a proper deep red, and other than the fact I've put mucky fingerprints on it, it's lovely. So I've primed the fuel pump once to make sure nothing leaks on the floor. I think we'll do that again because it makes funny noises as it gets the air out of itself. I've not got a vast amount of fuel in, but hopefully it'll light my fire. Woohoo! Well, it sort of fired, and If I go around the other side and actually pull the choke out, it might actually fire properly. So that's the choke lever pulled out, or the fast idle, I suppose, if we're going to be proper. Let's see what it does now. Woohoo! That sounds much better. Back the fast idle off a little bit. That sounds lovely, that does. We like a little bit of steam, it looks so cool. So that's it, after its first proper run for a good few seconds, it sucked all its oil around everywhere, so we're just going to have to top that up. I'll check the coolant level as well, and then we'll run it for a bit longer. I've had the bike running a few times inside just to get a little bit of temperature into it, to check fluid levels a bit, and I'm happy that, you know, it's not going to run out of oil and it's got plenty of water in it. So I've now got it outside so I can run it up to temperature without gassing myself, and then we'll have a proper look round, make sure we've not got any whips of oil from anything. Then when it's cooled down we can do a final check of the fluid levels and then put all the bodywork on. So I've had the bike running long enough outside to get the fan kicking in a couple of times so everything's nice and hot. The oil level is happy. I'm just letting it cool down before I check the water level because I don't want scalded fingers. And now I can start putting bodywork back on. I've actually already fitted the rear hugger, which I've decided to have done in like a flat satin black so that it's almost unnoticeable, because they're the kind of thing that don't really need attention at dragging to them. So that looks considerably better because you hardly see it. So bit by bit, I'm getting there with the bodywork. The wiring that sits behind this front panel is a little bit awkward to get rerouted in. It sort of tucks between the outer panel and the sort of the inner cowl. So that's a bit of a game. And I haven't recently renewed my awkward Honda fairing clip training course. So that has been putting up a little bit of a fight. But everything is now connected. So that's a good sign. So the next thing to do is look at side panels. The side panels used to have a hole in it for the crash bung, and now it doesn't have a hole in for a crash bung. So that is an absolute bonus. What we've actually got, if we zoom in a bit closer, is a little plug, because Aaron over at Paint Cave has 3D printed a little red plug which fits perfectly in the hole. So that's been bonded in, and then we've just put sticker vinyl on the outside of it to match everything up. The other option was to fill it, filler it, sand it back, repaint this panel, replace all the stickers, and that seemed a little bit excessive. And, you know, now we've still got original paint, so in years to come you can go, it's original paint, like one of those people on the internet. So other than a coat of polish and actually remembering to put the toolkit under the seat, she's about ready. It's going to have to go off for MOT because that's run out while I've been messing around with it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing for somebody to actually check my work and make sure nothing critical is going to fall off it. But I'm really, really pleased with this. Everywhere you look, the bike just looks so much nicer than when it turned up. I think Henry's going to be very, very pleased with this. Well, he better be. He's paying for it. Thanks for watching, and join me again next time for the final episode of the Henry's Honda SP1 Restoration.